Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our main topic today in the breakfast show. Today we are discussing the e-learning or studying online that have been applied recently by the Ministry of Education and the Egyptian government as a precautionary measures, as the Egyptian government and the Ministry of Education have stopped the schools and the universities as a kind of precautionary measures, as I've said, and it postponed the mid-year examinations until after the mid-year vacation, to shed more light on the positives and the negatives of the e-learning and the importance and also the efforts exerted by the Ministry of Education to face the coronavirus. We have the pleasure to host this morning our dear guest, Dr. Nabil Gad, educational expert. Welcome, Dr. Gad.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Now, Dr. Gad, Egypt and the Ministry of Education have started since last year the first wave of the coronavirus, this new system of the e-learning or the online learning. And now this is the second year we are applying this. So what is the positives and the negatives of this system concerning the Egyptians, of course?
Sure. You mentioned a very important thing about the positive points and the negative points. But before I tackle this matter, let me congratulate all the Egyptians for the new year 2021, hoping that it will be more prosperous, more healthy, and more wealthy as well. Yes. And special greeting and congratulations for the Copts. And by the way, Copts means the Egyptians, yes, whether Muslims Egyptians or Christians. Yes. We are in a very peculiar country that respects everybody, yes, which is something that we are to be proud of.
Yes, Happy New Year to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year for all the people, whether here in Egypt or all around the world. The coronavirus actually, COVID-19 as they used to call it, and we are a couple of years now ahead from 2019, has given us advantages. And the disadvantages, of course, it's well known that they are the number of people who are affected and infected by the virus, yes, and the death toll, which is increasing every now and then in different countries, and thank God Egypt is still stable, yes, and numbers
under control.
Yes,
yes,
it's under control so
yes,
far. However, one of the merits or advantages of having the corona is that the process of learning has shifted to the e-learning.
Yes.
This year, for example, where I teach in a certain place, the students have one lecture to be face-to-face, and the other lecture...
So, but let me say that you are teaching in a university.
Yes, that's
because
right.
The e-learning would be completely different concerning the, for example, the young students, the KGs and the primary stage.
Right.
So
still, I have my
because they need a one-to-one learning, or,
sure,
or they need to meet their teacher and to go to school and to, you know.
Right. Yes. I know what you drive at.
So we are talking now about the university stage.
Yes,
yes,
and I'll talk about the other stages.
Yes.
The primary, elementary, or intermediate or preparatory, yes, and the secondary. It's all learning. After all, it's all learning. So one of the advantages of the corona is that now we have shifted to a new technique in learning. Gone are the days when the teacher is the only operator of the learning process. It's now called the teaching learning process. The face-to-face learning, of course, is quite essential, because there is a sort of interaction between the teacher and the learner, and the
Yes.
learners themselves when they have group work or
Teamwork,
individual work,
yes.
or teamwork, as
Yes.
you
They
mentioned.
make a project or something.
That's right, right. And they give some presentations. So this is good that they seek the information anywhere they can get, simply from Google, you can say. However, the e-learning, of course, needs a lot of preparations, a lot of equipment, and the net, I'm afraid to say, in some places, let us not think only under our feet of the cities and towns in Egypt, but let
Yes.
us think of the rural areas, the villages in particular. Does the net work cover all such areas? We have to think of it. However, a lot of efforts are being done nowadays by the Ministry of Communications.
Yes.
And we have to supply them and supply our students. We have already heard about the secondary school students to have the tablets, and this cost the
Ministry?
budget of the country, of the government, a lot,
A lot.
or some billions of pounds. And because this is the future of learning everywhere. Yeah, you imagine when somebody calls you from abroad, let's say from US, Canada, Australia, any corner of the world. You hear him or her as if they were next door to you. So the net now is an essential which we cannot do without at all.
Yes.
Right. We have to encourage our students. Back to what I have mentioned earlier, that the new batch of students I started to teach this academic year, we had one day to be face-to-face, and they are distributed in the lecture hall. One to be sitting, I give them these instructions actually to be followed and respected all the time. One to be sitting at the end of the bench, and the other classmate or colleague to be sitting at the other end of the bench.
Yes.
And this is actually to obey the social distancing.
Yes.
However, some of them sometimes come to check something with me concerning the absentees list or something of that kind. I said, please be away from me at least a couple of meters, and I wear the mask. I
Yes.
usually have it with them.
Yes.
And I always have the sterilizer with me
Yes.
all the time,
Yes.
in my pocket, as we did before. And if we have the precautions, I think we can reduce. We cannot eliminate the virus, but we can at least reduce the infection that happens everywhere.
Yes.
We have to encourage our students, whether in the general, secondary, or technical stages, and in the high stages of university and high institutes and colleges, academies, to encourage them to be self-motivated first, and to seek knowledge wherever they can,
Yes.
especially from the net. When I ask somebody to give me
They
a
have to
present,
search and
so this research, he makes an effort,
Yes.
and we have to encourage this. As I said maybe before, gone are the days when the spoon feeding technique was followed. No, we just give them instructions, directions, and they abide by what they have. If, and underline the word if, they have the desire to be learning.
Yes.
Because I'm afraid a minority of the students, are ready not to learn, or they are ready to depend on their parents, for example. And parents have their role also to encourage these.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you, Doctor,
Sure.
Concerning the role of the family and the parents at home. Because sometimes the student say he's, for example, translating a passage or something. So he asks his mother, what is the translation of this? She says, pick it up from the dictionary. So this is a kind of
Sure.
encouraging
To encourage them to be
the students to search.
self-dependent, to
Yes.
depend on themselves.
Yes.
Because they are the future generation who will hold the roles in the society
Yes.
and in the government. Let us think of the top personnel in our country. They were students like those, and they were working very hard. They had a target in front of them, and that's what we have to encourage our students to do. Have a target, a dream, long cherished dream to be achieved later on, and everything, as a matter of fact, depends on good planning.
Yes.
If somebody says, oh, we have about 50 days till after the mid-year vacation to be sitting for the exams, we'll forget what we had already studied during the few months of this academic or school year, academic for the university degree and school year for the other stages. But if he or she, I mean the learners, pupils or students, if he or she has a plan, and let him or her ask themselves, what can I do today? It's not only a vacation for relaxation.
Yes.
It's a vacation to be reviewing what we have had.
Yes.
And let us be ready for that. Maybe somebody hasn't studied well during the last period of time since the beginning of the new scholastic or academic year. If he or she has a plan, a timetable, I will spend a couple of hours every day in reviewing what I have had.
Yes.
And for the Ministry of Education, actually there are very wonderful efforts done that they have already assigned some educational channels. So why not to make use of this? And this, I think, could solve a little bit of the problem of the internet outage or failure, which happens from time to time.
So the e-learning can
depend on
all
the TV.
positive sides.
That's right.
Yes.
Not only the sites on the net, but even on the
positive sides.
The positive sides, bravo.
Yeah.
We have not to ignore the negative sides, but we have to get the, let me say...
We said that the only negative point is that the students should go to school and, you know, see their teachers and see, you know, deal with the teacher, and he can see that the teacher is encouraging him
the interaction, which I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
That's right. Of course, this is good. I know well that some of the students, not all, I don't like to overgeneralize. Some of them say, oh, we are lucky, we have a vacation, we'll enjoy the sun in this winter and do nothing. But this is not correct. Let us put them on the right path, or the right track.
Yes.
Make use of your time. Put for yourself priorities.
Yes.
I just remembered right now that priorities come to the busy person. And a boss in a certain establishment once told me such a statement, which I'll mention right now. If you have an important job, don't give it to a lazy person. Give it to the busiest of all people. If he or she finds it of importance, he or she will give it the priority. So if our learners, students or pupils give priorities to the work, it's not only for spending leisure and going everywhere and clubs and meeting friends. Even meetings should be limited nowadays. No unnecessary visiting, no unnecessary traveling, as I have mentioned earlier in one of the programs here in Nile TV International and in Breakfast Show. It was through a phone call. And if something is urgent, say going to be having medical checkup or something of that kind, fine. But unnecessary visiting or unnecessary traveling are not encouraged nowadays. They are not recommended at all. And I think all of the people do agree with me about this.
So, Doctor, do you think that the e-learning should, when the coronavirus is over, we hope so, and the second wave is over, do you think that the e-learning should continue during the summer vacation, for example? in order to keep the students
alert and
updated,
aware of what is
yes,
going on.
following.
Of course, as I mentioned, it is the advantage or the merit of the coronavirus. Let us make use of this advantage,
Yes,
benefit
that's
from
what I
what
mean.
happened. A wise person always thinks ahead, and we are lucky to have leaders in the government, whether in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Tariq Shawi and the team working with him, or Dr. Khalid Abdel Ghaffar, the Minister of Higher Education. They have very good teams,
Vision.
experts, and they have a good vision
Yes.
for the future. Of course, there are some scientists now called the futurists, and I wish the new generations, Egyptian young men and women, to be futurists, because they have to bear in mind that they will be the backbone of progress, prosperity, and every good things that we say. I remember that Egypt will be the best of the whole countries. The President Sisi mentioned Masr تبقى أم الدنيا
will be the best country,
so
in the
that
world.
would be a great country, of course. How? Not by words, not by wishes, but by hard, continuous work all through the time.
Yes. So the participants of the educational, the e-learning process nowadays, what is the role of each? The ministry, the teachers, the student himself?
Sure.
The parents, we've just mentioned the role of the parents.
Yes, it is actually a well-knotted plan. The circle goes from, as you mentioned, from the first beneficiary, the learner, his parents, his teachers, the society, all people who are in authority to reward such excellent top students in class. And I remember that we have, of course, we all know, the Science Day, which is sometime in October, I think. And the Science Day has been set for encouraging these students. So encouragement will push forward these learners to be advancing and progressing and achieving the goals they have. As I said, long cherished dream for them and for their parents, for their society, for everybody here. Because it's our country and we are the people to build it up. Without cooperation together. Cooperation doesn't mean only one person, it means a lot of persons. Not only 2 or 3, but all the people who shoulder the responsibility all the time to be doing a fantastic job for the future and the prosperity of our country.
Yes. Dr. Gad, how can we benefit from the experiences of the other countries around us, and what is the country that you feel it's a role model in the e-learning?
Sure. I just
Germany.
remembered that the Ministry of Higher Education, I think recently, has launched something called the twinning of universities. So this kind of twinning will make us exchange their experiences and they can get from ours as well. You know, two heads, it's said simply, like as simple as that, the two heads are better than one. So when we benefit and consult others, and they can benefit from us as well, of course this will be forward march, as it is said in the military personnel. We will march forward to a good future
of the education
of education in Egypt as well.
I thank you very much for coming today. Happy
good.
New Year, and thank you very much for your valuable information.
Thank you.
Dr. Nabil Gad, the educational expert, thank you very much for joining us today.
Most welcome. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure too, sir. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for following me. I'm Amal Mukhtar. I leave you now with my colleague Karim Gamal Eddin.